Today we're going to be joined by Lerato Mogoathle, who is a best-selling author in the country. I don't know how many of you have read this book or have seen this book in stores. It's called Vagabond. It's available at exclusive books and a bunch of other bookstores. I spoke about last time how these conversations aren't necessarily with, aren't necessarily people in the Ubungoma space, but people that are innately spiritual, and their spirituality we feel is defined by the way that they live their lives and what it is that it is the way they treat other people and the way they conduct themselves and the way that they lead their lives, what it is they do, the way they live to fulfill their purpose,
the way they treat themselves.
Yeah. So this is also redefining what it is that we consider to be spiritual. And I think it's really important that we look at that holistically and we don't just look at, the ritualistic practices and the religiosity of it all. Okay, so we're going to be talking to Lerato Mogoathle, and we're going to be talking to her about her travels through. She's traveled like the whole continent. She's been to so many countries. On this continent, and she's learned different languages. She's met all different kinds of people, and there's so much that it is that she can teach us about. First of all, traveling Africa on a budget, because it's not like she's super loaded, but she is so savvy with her money, and
she knows what she wants to use her money for.
Yeah. Everything she does with intention and purpose. So,
and the intention is normally to be happy.
Yeah. For the longest time, I job shadowed her. My first job shadowing experience in high school was with her, and she taught me so much in that that experience. She was working as a journalist for True Love, so she would write True Love articles. And I went and I spent time with her there, at her the True Love offices or whatever. And it was really cool. Like, I learned so much. So I'm really excited to have her on. So since then, she's written a whole book, published a whole book. This is incredible, and the book is so cool as well. It's very insightful, and it really gives a whole vibe of what it is to travel through Africa. So we're gonna be talking to her today about that. Oh, I see her. I see you. Okay, guys. We're bringing on Lerato Mogoathle. Yes, definitely. Okay, I have to adjust this camera.
I had a baby face moment.
Oh, for real? Wait, let me just adjust the camera. You had a baby face moment.
Yeah, like we did a Oh My God live together. Where am I pressing? What's happening?
How are you?
I'm fine, thanks, and you?
I am super, super good.
I dressed up for you.
Yes, I see ya. And I like your lipstick.
Thank you.
You always have the best dresses. I love your dresses. And what advice would you give to somebody who's looking to publish their own book, especially an African? Because I think maybe there may be specific challenges that are unique to African people when it comes to trying to get your own book published. You're trying to work on a project like this. What advice would you give, and what do you think are the challenges that they may come across, and how they can overcome those kinds of challenges?
I think 2018 at Abantu Book Festival, Lebomashile said something that was so profound. She said, that story that is inside of you, that is burning to come out, let it come out. And I think how it comes out can be book, it can be documentaries, it can be photography, it can be whatever art, whatever form of, whatever way you express your art. But let's keep it to the purpose of books in this particular place. I mean, for the purposes of this conversation, let's say books, right? So write that story. Remember, Abantu is a Black audience, predominantly women, right? So write that story as Black people, as women, as healers, whatever journey you've been on, whatever lesson, whatever life of yours, sitting down with a great-grandmother, archiving what she has to say, things like that. Write those stories, tell them. They become important because there's so little of ourselves, particularly in South Africa, I think, that you see as an African, as a Black person, as a Black woman in the mainstream. Yes, we have DJs, we have celebrities, we have engineers, we have first this, we have all of that. But there's something about public space, unless it's curated for a Black audience, that is not immediately Black, that is not immediately female, that doesn't jump out as a country in Africa. So when you walk into the exclusive books, You're not seeing a lot of Mogoathles, Busani Dubes, you're not seeing a lot of Sunyatis, you're seeing Zuki Sabana, then you were seeing Angela Makolwa, you were seeing Cynthia Jele, right? But now you're seeing also so many more, both published by a mainstream company or whatever type of company you choose to define it as, or self-published. And the point of it is that you have a story. The best thing you can do to your story is make sure that you work with talent. No one is perfect. Your duty is to tell your story, but you're not going to edit it. And your friend is not going to edit it just because she loves reading books. You know, she can tell you how it reads. She can be a friend and be involved in the process, but it's work now. So get the professionals so that it's a professional story. It reads properly, because we can't just buy stories because, oh, it's our stories and they're Black stories and African stories. They must be incredible stories. They must be well told, well made. They must be well designed. There's a lot that needs to happen that is not just about getting a book published. And you need to ensure that you do that.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. So I think more than anything, realize that you need to come up with a very good product. And also I think because it's nice for audiences. I'm both a writer but also a consumer of literature. Longer than I've been a writer, you know, more than I'll probably ever be a writer, even if I were to have like 10 books. I'll first be a consumer of literature. You want to be excited. You want to consume. I consume my art as my identity, as my political statement. You know me, it's all Black, it's all Africa, with like little drips and drabs of everything else, but primarily Africa. But I don't want to just consume Africa because it's my identity and that's what I want to center myself. I want to do it because it's excellent, because it's thrilling. And we have that in this country, we have that on this continent. So go for it. Just remember that the standard has to be here. You know, but bring it, and we look forward to many more stories. And also write.
Wow, your journey of finding yourself is really profound. You went and found yourself because you were just traveling on your own. The only person that knew you was you. And there's no bigger way to also find you, because then now you're learning about who Lerato is without any of these influences. Lerato has to make decisions for Lerato at that point, and there is no one to consult. It's just about Lerato and what is good for Lerato at that time.
Definitely. I think what ended up being so beautiful is that, I mean, you go on journeys and you know that it's a moment that's going to define you in some way, shape, or form, right? Because I was taking what was meant to be a 3-month break. So I expected that, of course, first things first, I'll have fun. I'll finally get to connect with West Africa, the region of my obsession, the region of so many it's so prominent in my life in so far as its influence and its impact and the actual change of it. Remember, it was my 4-day trip to Ghana that made me realize that that's it, I'm out of here, you know. So to finally be there, it was always going to be profound, but I did not see coming, and this is, I think, the most beautiful gift ever from God, from my ancestors, from the universe to me, was a lady at the Malian embassy in Abidjan, Ivory Coast, saying to me, if I give you 4 months on the house, if I give you 4 months of a visa fee on the house, will you stay in Mali for 6 months? Because I was only applying for a 2-month visa. So she said 2 months is quite random. She'll add 4, and I'll only pay for 2 months, provided I get to stay in Mali the whole 6 months. And so I took her up, of course, and I got to stay in Mali for 6 months, but particularly Bamako for a long time, because also it coincided with the hot season, and it was the first time I was experiencing, you know, temperatures that make you dizzy. Like, you know, when temperatures at home that make news headlines, like there's a heat wave coming that's been predicted for like a week or whatever. And it's just like business as usual. I couldn't do anything past 11, really pushing it, and I'd only do something at night, you know, after the sun has gone down, it's cool again. So it really made me grounded, and I got to settle. And I didn't realize that it was happening. I only saw it after it had happened, but in real time, after it had happened months later, that I had lost myself. I was no longer, yes, I have things that I'm really fussy about, that are quite a challenge in my day-to-day life, much less traveling public toilets, essentially. you know so
That's
yes,
cool.
alone, it's public toilets, so they're really a terror in my life. They're such a terror. They are such a terror. And it's all consuming. So so even though the terror never left completely, it stopped being this big fear in my life. Where, I remember when I got to West Africa, you guys, the first time I went on a long trip from Dakar to Bamako, I think it was 72 hours, right? I didn't eat and I barely drank water, and I only had like nibbled on a piece of meat, nibbled on a banana, nibbled on an apple, because I didn't want to have to go to the loo and waste public damn
Yo.
toilets. You know? And truth be told, I'll be frank with you, even now, I take Imodium so that I don't have to deal with, like, I just have to go at my hotel. But like, honestly, it's a big
Yeah.
thing. So I'm really sorry, guys. I'm just telling you this because it used to
Yeah,
be
it's a good
a
point.
domineering thing in my life. And one day I realized, "Hore, it's no longer there. I'm not freaking out, I'm not having meltdowns. And also that life had become very, very intimate. Life in Bamako had become very intimate. I was used to its character. And I think I mentioned Bamako because when I arrived, cities are very different. And African cities are, in a lot of them are were barely developed. 10 years ago, it looked like there was like an arrested of development somehow. So it developed, but not fully. Bamako also looked broken, it looked mended, it was just like a little bit broken, a little rough around the edges, but also very beautiful, very ancient, rich culture, rich heritage. As far as I'm concerned, the musical capital of the world, because that's where Habib Kwate is, Salif Keita, that's where Umusangare is, Amadou and Miriam, that's where Viefa Kature is, that's where all those giants are. And that's where all the other people in world music who are really, really in tune with what's up go as well to learn, but also other people who are interested in just history and the heritage of music, because it goes back to Boma 13th century and earlier, the music cultures and traditions of some parts of West Africa. Yeah, all of West Africa is quite hectic, man. It's so intense, it's beautiful.
Well, while you're on that point, Cook, I want to ask, because you had we talk a lot about, yes, I did, it's a habit, it's just a habit that I have. So on the point of, because traveling Africa, we speak a lot about African spirituality on this channel, and it's such a unique experience. Most of us don't even get to go and travel outside of our hoods or cities, or the areas that we live in, let alone our country. And getting that experience to travel the continent must be such like a spiritual experience. And you get to experience African spirituality from the different perspectives of the different tribes, different cultures within the continent. What is some of the most memorable, the most striking things that you've experienced, some of the most spiritual experiences that you've had, the things that you've learned about the differences and the similarities that we have as tribes, like across the continent, in our spiritual practices?
I think honestly across board it's totems, and it's having an ancestral expression of spirituality. So you find that, for instance, in some cultures in Mali, homes have skulls of an animal, something like that. But more than that, really, I think the part of spirituality that resonated so much was how to be African and not shrink yourself to fit in elsewhere. So I think I will mention this a lot when I travel. I mean, I travel as a Black South African woman, and that really influences how I experience the world, how I relate to the world, how I respond to the world, right? And how I occupy the spaces that I move in. So as a Black South African, it's always been so obvious that you cannot be Black. You know, I mean, your skin could be Black, right? And it's related to oppression, it's related to apartheid, it's related to colonialism. Your skin can be Black, but better if your tongue is polished, you know? You can have a belief, but better if it's Jesus. You can have spiritual gifts, but disguise them as something else, something more palatable, something more acceptable. You know, everything else is demonic, everything else is evil, everything else is vile. And then you to be in elsewhere around this continent, where in Bamako, again, for instance, there's a grand mosque, you know, the biggest mosque in the city where the main prayers happen, and right across the street is a fetish market. So you go from saying your prayers, dash across the street and go to Olumuti wako, you know. In many places around the continent, there are markets like my like Faraday, yes, like Faraday, right? But they're bigger. They're very, very big. The biggest one I've been to is in Benin, in Cotonou. It's called Dentokpa. It has blocks and blocks of muti, dried herbs, and bound animals, like whatever you can do, whatever you can think of, it's there. In this other town in Ouida in Benin, there's a temple of pythons on one side of the street. Then just close, not far from it, is a cathedral. You know, in Abomi, also in Benin, when you walk around the town, I loved walking around Abomi so much. Firstly, I had a dance teacher, and this dance teacher frustrated me because he was calm, and I'm not calm. My energy was like, I want to go, and he was just like so chilled, like he was not involved, you know. So I remember saying, "Hey Allah, you know, now I'm mimicking what I've had so much traveling around West Africa, because I've been to many Islamic countries there, right? And he didn't know what Allah was. Someone had to say to him, Mahu is God in voodoo. Do you see how profound it is? That yes. Do you see how profound it is that he knew Mahu, but he didn't know Allah?
That's so interesting.
But you were also deep in somewhere there.
Yeah. But
people like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's how you travel, hey? You go deep. You go deep. And I think that's why you stay, because you want the depth of it.
Yeah.
Not to remain in a place. It could be a reason for your remaining.
No, absolutely. I didn't want to travel and then being there, done that, got the t-shirt, right? There are some places that I passed through, you know, I was guided very much by my feelings and what I felt like doing at that point in time and what chance came to me, right? I wanted this continent to be the story of my life. I wanted to speak of my life, to speak of Africans, speak of my life. You know what I mean? So for instance, I learned how to swim properly in Zanzibar. I learned how to cook Senegalese dishes by living with Senegalese people, you know, and helping them cook their food. I have been to ancient markets that are to bazaars that are more than 700 years old in Egypt. I've been to a market that's been going around since 1928 in Koforodua in Ghana. It's a bead market. Only beads are sold. And there are beads from all over Ghana, there are beads from all over the region, and some from East Africa as well, because I saw Maasai beads there. Now, beads in West Africa are very important. They're by your biography. They're given to you as a present when you're born. They're given to you to mark specific occasions in your life. You have your beads from your grandmother to you, from your mom, from your aunts, from your lover. Beads are an expression, their identity, and so Koforodua, this market on Thursday since 1928, only deals with beads. And at one of the stalls, I met a guy. He had a bracelet, and it was thick and very heavy. And I just touched it and felt it. And he said to me, oh, don't even ask how much it is because it's not for sale. And the reason it's not for sale is because no one can afford it. Then I joked. I was like, ha, ha, ha. There's a price for everything. I might not afford it now, but like I could come back 2 years from now with the cash, right? To prove you wrong. And he said, no, literally no one can afford it because it's an heirloom that's been in my family from the time of the Ashanti Empire. So it's been in his family from around between 13th and 16th centuries, and it's been passed down from generation to generation like that. So he sells other beads, right? But he comes and displays those ones for us to also see. So it becomes like art, then it becomes art that belongs to the people, because the people can just walk across the road to a market in their hometown, and there's this heirloom that's been around since then. So yeah, guys, as you can tell, I get very emotional
I
when I
know.
talk about the continent. It's so
That's how
intense.
you're actually the best person to be taking people on trips. I was very excited when you started. I was like, oh my God, about time. Because also that's how I got to go to Zanzibar.
Yeah.
Because I would sit and listen to you tell me stories about everywhere that you have been. And that was the thing. Now I knew I needed to travel, and I needed to travel it in that way, in that authentic way, where I am not going as a tourist, but I am going to find out about the people, about the way of life of the people. And that was the most brilliant of my travel stories to date. It's that one where I went and connected with people that I found that were actually my people because they were African. The Maasai were my
Yeah.
people. We clicked at a level that I actually cannot explain. I would be happy just sitting there with these wandering guys and talking to them because they all also spoke English, luckily. We'd sit down and we'd have all those conversations. And it was beautiful. I learned about their spirituality, I learned about wandering, and I actually touched into a wandering spirit within me just from sitting with them. And yeah, you wake up with things like, you wake up with dreams of being in places that you've never been. And sitting with people like that also helps you in a way that you actually do understand that this is ways that my people actually lived, because you have ancestors everywhere. We don't. Our people come from way back there, so they come from everywhere. So we
Yeah.
can't say that I'm sitting here in Johannesburg now and I'm Johannesburgian.
No.
No, you know, my
No,
people are coming from everywhere. So the more people I meet, the more in touch with myself that I get, or in touch with my spirit.
I
There's such
want
a
to do,
powerful
oh,
point.
sorry, Kusi. I want to do a DNA test because I'm convinced some part of me is from Sudan. Because I arrived and I was completely at home. And I've been to a lot of
Maybe it's a
places by
spirit
now,
test that you need. Maybe it's a spirit test.
But
Maybe it's a spirit test, not a DNA test. Your
yeah,
spirit has been there, has lived there. Do you
probably.
understand? Before you. That's why
Yeah.
you recognized it. You
So
loved it when you got there.
so there was that, and I think honestly, there's a lot of that happens when you travel the continent as a black person. But as a black Southern African, we come from a region that was not necessarily among the first. I think we're among the last to be liberated in Africa to get freedom. And it happened so many years after those waves of freedom, right? And those winds of freedom were blowing through the continent when they started in Ghana. And I feel like you definitely see a lot of the legacies of colonialism and apartheid and racial segregation. You live with it so much. Just the way these cities are structured, just the way life is here, it constantly reminds you of your dispossession, and then it also affirms it with the structures that it creates around your life. For example, there's a story about a traditional musician who wanted to get in the Gau train, and he was dressed in his traditional gear, and they kicked him out because they said it's inappropriate. How is African attire inappropriate in Africa? You know what I mean? But on Heritage Day, then it's like, yes, dress like that, come, be you, you know.
Yeah.
So things like that. So I think that's what makes traveling around the continent so profound. It's you find bits and pieces of yourself. You see yourself differently. You see yourself as you perhaps imagined yourself to be. If, like me, you crave freedom. If you have fear, perhaps you see yourself in a brave format because now you are needing to jump in the sea and learn to snorkel for the first time. You are learning that you actually have a sense of adventure. And a lot of people think they're not adventurous. A lot of people think you have to be a specific way in
It's
this
an opportunity for adventure, eh?
mm,
Taking
in
up
this
that opportunity. As long as you take it up, then you have it.
yeah.
We're having cake. We sent you cake, man.
Oh,
We
It's
sent
my
you cake.
birthday cake from yesterday.
oh wow. Oh no,
Have you
really?
done? Please check you got your packet.
That is so cool.
We
So you
sent
know
you
what
a
happens now
packet.
when anything comes to the house, you have to drop it at the gate, and then I have to get my mask and sanitizers on and everything, maintaining all the social distance. So that's cool. Thank you so much. I look forward to enjoying it.
I have a question for you that I think a lot of people would benefit a lot from hearing. And also, okay, because you now are organizing trips for people. And I wanted to ask, well, after this whole lockdown situation, but I'd like you to first to explain how it is that people that you'll be working on organizing trips for people, and then I'd also like you to really emphasize or explain the benefits that the benefits of traveling, what it's done for you, and what it has the potential to do for people, why it's important to travel, especially to travel Africa. And not not necessarily not to travel all these other continents, but the benefits that Africans the benefit for Africans of traveling Africa specifically.
The benefits for traveling Africa as an African is that firstly, this is home, this is where you belong. So when you arrive, you see people like yourself, but it's yourself in a different expression, it's yourself in a different language, in a different culture, in a different religion. But the Ubuntu is there. The fun, that need to have fun times, just get up, dance, drink something. In some cases, even if it's like juice or tea or coffee, it's just there, right? And also the creativity, our closeness we have to land, the closeness we have to relationships with each other, the warmth with which we just welcome people, that easygoing nature of relating to people and particularly welcoming strangers. And then another thing is that you get to experience truly the beauty of this continent and you get to have fun. Now, I really believe in having fun more than anything else. I think you must have fun. I think you must enjoy life. I think there must be so many memories that bring you joy, that bring you happiness. And I think you must find the things you love and be so invested in them that you go all out for them, be it only drinking your favorite type of tea because that's the only tea you like. Life is too short, even if you live to be 100 years old, do it so that ultimately when you think about, well, I do it, let me make this about myself. I do this. I believe in having fun with my life. I believe in living a life that's both productive, successful, aspiration driven, but also of leisure, equally. And because ultimately when I die, I don't want to die like my grandmother, don't want to die like my great grandmother, I don't want to die like my great great grandmother. I knew these three women until I was quite old in my life. And by that I mean they come from a history of dispossession and a life of servitude and a life of lack. My grandmother worked at a hospital, cleaning clothes there, you know what I mean? And so also when I go and have this fabulous life of travel and destinations, yes, I travel to write certain stories. Yes, I collect certain stories and narratives, but also I have moments when I jump out and I just go and have this incredible fun snorkeling in the Reds and thinking, yes, I'm doing it for my grandmother who only read about the Red Sea in the Bible, who's swimming in this beach,
Yeah.
Because I want my experiences of an African woman, as a black woman, not just the one where I'm fighting for gender equality, where I'm fighting GBV, where I'm like, fuck, I've made it so far, but close ends like 75% more, or navigating these spaces around culture and traditions and expectations and roles. I don't want just a life of duty. I want a life of fun and
Want some life out of
adventure
this life.
and memories.
Yeah. Yeah. And then what's the best way? Because a lot of people don't travel because they feel that they can't afford it. We all think of travel to be expensive. Give some people some insight on how it is that you can travel on a budget, how you've managed to do it.
You must say, but really underestimated the importance of saving. And I really think if you want to go anyway, figure it out when you more figure pambili. But for all intents and purposes, I think really save and have just enough of savings for you to be able to move around freely, but also connect with people. I used to find friends on Twitter. I used to find friends on Couchsurfing and other travel platforms. And even if it's not about giving me a place to stay, it would be about just hanging out and getting that local perspective. Because the reason I go to these places is also to discover the tourist side of it, right? Discover them as a destination. These are the things that I've seen in pictures. Probably first I knew Zanzibar, got a postcard and thought, whoa, what a beautiful island. I didn't first hear Swahili and think, oh, it rolls off the tongue like a melody. But I go for those experiences that I see. I get there and I go to Nungwi and I want to see that paradise and be in it. But I also move and live in Stone Town because I want to go to the market and sit down and have coffee and hear that the Swahili rolls off the tongue like a melody in a way that I've never ever heard elsewhere. And I've traveled extensively around East Africa. I want to be able to notice that even though the women are always covered in kangas and in burqas, their eyes are always collined, right? That even the children are collined. You won't see those things if you don't sit still and take in places not beyond just destination. So now you are on this place, and I think you can actually do it as a holiday. You are in this space, you are on holiday, right? While you're also on holiday, make time to discover it as if it were your home. And the reason I believe in doing that, and the reason I want to create my group travels to also include that, is because often for me, and by now, I mean, I'm well traveled, right? So I trust everything I say about my observations with traveling. The most precious memories always end up as the things that you never really travel for. You don't travel for a girl to show up on your doorstep, which is what happened to Celi in Paje. For a girl to show up on your doorstep and offer to cook you coconut curry. That's not the thing that you book your travels for. You book because there's a festival. You book because you want your paradise holiday. But now this girl is there and she wants to cook for you, and you let her cook for you. And now you eat the best damn curry of your life that you can't stop thinking about. And every time you eat a prawn, you like, that time in Zanzibar. You know what I mean?
You'll never find it. You'll never find it anywhere ever
So,
unless you
so
go
for
back
me,
to find it. Then
yeah.
it's
So
gonna
for
appear
me,
again. So it's no one off. Eh?
yeah. So for me, it really is about those things and how I create them what I was the trip to Lagos was going to be the first one, right? And how I do that is that there has to be discovering a place for its iconic experiences. There has to also be discovering a place through your passions. I was curating a trip to a Cape Book Festival, so I was going to organize a reading date for Refilwe. She had signed up to come for the trip, and she runs reading dates in Johannesburg. So she asked me to organize a reading date. First, I was going to organize a reading date for her in Lagos, and then I also asked people, what are some of the things that you love? If you love fashion, I'm going to curate a menu of Lagos fashion for you. And also, if you love music, if you love books, because this was a book crowd anyway, there was our group experiences included experiencing Lagos through literature. I had asked Zuki Savannah to tell me about her spots in Lagos that she loves, where she eats the best suya, where she drinks the best, what's that wine? The cliched West African wine, that's nice. But that one, it's tapped on a tree, things fall apart. Oh my God, I can't believe I forgot it. Palm wine. I think.
Right.
So things like that, right? So I think it's so important to I want everything that I love about Africa. If you've ever wondered what makes a person say they're going for 3 months, go for 5 years, and even after coming back, never really leave that part of their life and make sure that it makes it. What makes a person do that? My trips are going to answer that. It's because you go to these places and you don't just experience them, you don't just pose. You also have very intimate moments that almost silences the experiences of 10 million other people around you, even though they're also having their experiences. But it's your moment in this city experiencing this thing that you love so much, and then you buy. If you love.
Please tell us about the. We spoke about it before, and I'd like for you to share it with everybody that's listening. The language barrier, because I remember asking you. I was so concerned. My biggest concern with traveling would be then being in a place where I don't understand the language that they're speaking, and it's just difficult to navigate the environment because I don't understand what anyone's saying, and nobody understands me. How do you overcome that language barrier, and what would you say is the easiest language the easiest language maybe for you to learn, or is the number one language that people should maybe try to get in touch with if they're planning to travel Africa?
The easiest language for me to learn was Swahili because it's a Bantu language. So it was really just easy to learn because it was very familiar. Some words are the same. So it's very easy to just get absorbed into it. I think language makes an experience richer, but even without language, you still go and you still have a very rich experience. So for instance, I went to West Africa. I didn't speak French, and I wasn't using Google Translate because were the smartphones got 2008. No, they were like dumb phones. They tried, they like took a picture, did things, but they were dumb. Dumb is a pile of bricks. So it was useless. But even if in some instances now I could use Google Translate and I lean into it, some people can't read, so it becomes pointless anyway. So I think you rely on, firstly, I realized that I needed to make friends, to connect with people. I needed to rely on things that we all experience. We all get hungry. So I would go to a fish market, buy food, and show up with a letter saying, "Hi, this is Lerato. I met her. Don't ask me about her. I don't know her as well. But she says she wants a kitchen to cook. Please give her a kitchen." Then when I get to that place, this happened to me in Mozambique. I get to their house to show them that they must give me the kitchen. They say to me, "Oh, fine, you'll go to our restaurant." They take me to their restaurant, and then I cook with the staff there and the lady Angelina, and then everyone thinks they're cooking for me. Then I said, no, we're cooking for us. We just want to eat. So now, when I showed up in Kilimani, my presence might not have mattered, right? It might not have been anything. But to Angelina and her friends, I'm that girl who showed up randomly with a note and then cooked a seafood stew. And we couldn't converse. We only were using body language. We're using sound. And then we were eating, and the satisfaction of food, And in some places, I used Google Translate. In other places, I make friends. I make local friends everywhere I go, and I collect numbers. Everyone has a mobile phone in Africa. Everyone, mobile penetration on the continent is incredible. Internet connection might suck, but everyone has a cell phone. So when I stumble upon a language barrier, I call my friend who converses in both English and the local language, and they translate for me. So it becomes a very involved process. I mean, everyone knows when I'm in town. The whole town will know it's going to be how I look, it's going to be how I sound, it's going to be me needing someone to translate for me, it's going to be me looking for food, it's going to be me insisting that you are. One of the weirdest things that I experience is when I meet people and I insist you are taking me to like a local spot to eat, not a restaurant that's on, I don't know, TripAdvisor or on a blog or whatever on YouTube. You know that spot where you go when like you broke, you have 20 bucks. But damn it, if you were to go there, you're gonna eat a good meal. Take me there. And people take me there and they get shocked. They're like, oh, you done like that? Oh my gosh. People get surprised. You done like that? We're not used to tourists maybe acting this way. And I always just think, well, to be honest, I think it's very important for me to immerse myself in these places that I go to because it takes time, it takes money. So I want them to be experiences that add value in my life. And that value for me goes beyond being there for a specific time. If I go somewhere for 7 days,
Been there for 7 days. What did you do
10
in
years
that?
later, I've only been there for 7 days. Other things have happened. It stops being a thing, frankly. But it remains important because everything that I experience internally, journeys create journeys, internal and external. So everything that I experience internally while I'm journeying externally, I bring back into my life. In West Africa, one of my internal experiences was like, fuck it, one look at me, you are going to see that I'm African. Even I roll like that. You'll smell the incense and the sage. And then when I was in Kenya, in Nairobi, I stopped traffic, right? I stopped traffic for the first time. People were like driving across the street and were screaming, Masai Mrambo, beautiful Masai. I was wearing my Masai jewelry, and I was like, that's it, I'm only wearing tribal jewelry from now on. And you've seen my jewelry, right? Nah, things like that, right? So so I take these things everywhere that I go, the little things, again, the things that don't make you book a trip. But of course now I know that these moments are gonna happen, so I book a trip. But the things that you don't say, this is my bucket list, to get on a stranger's motorbike and drive around an ancient town, but yet you do them and you take them away and they become memories that really you carry through your life. That's just the most beautiful thing about traveling, and in particular traveling around Africa, and also traveling to places that are connected around Africa.
How many countries have you traveled?
I think I've been to 30 or 31 now, but in Vagabond I write about 21.
Yeah.
And I didn't write about all of them because some of them are like meh for me. Like basically, Burkina Faso is so great, amazing architecture, beautiful heritage, incredible. It's like anthropology, archaeology. Just working in some parts of Burkina Faso and you like living, breathing anthropology and archaeology. But at the same time, it had nothing for me. I didn't feel it per se, So I just mention it to help connect to the next bits of the story because I'm leaving Bamako by land to go to Accra by land. I can't suddenly be there. You have to see me going via Burkina Faso. Yeah, so little things like that. But yeah, 30, something like that, and more coming, and even better, some of them are going to be ones that include you and everyone.
Yes, definitely. What? Are you kidding? Absolutely. I wanted to ask.
We're going to the Voodoo Festival.
Yes. Okay. Oh, and we only have 10 minutes left. There's still so much I want to cover. I wanted to ask. So what countries did you go back to like more than once because you love them so much? And what country would you recommend for someone who's deciding to go on their first African trip, trying to leave in South Africa for the first time?
I keep going back to Zanzibar and Kenya. I recommend Ghana for a first experience because it's English. They speak English. It's not French. There won't be a language barrier. And then it's West Africa. It's big. It's bold. It's unforgettable. You know, it's memorable. It's unforgettable. And it's very friendly. So it has everything you love about West Africa: that fast pacedness, the energy, but a little dialed down. You know, you're not having like super hectic experiences. And then also Zanzibar, because it's so beautiful and it's so, it's like you see yourself. These are people like you speaking your language, eating your food, like pap and everything. But also it has all these other elements of that influence Swahili culture. And then Zanzibar is a UNESCO heritage site, right? It's close to South Africa. It's relatively affordable to fly there. It's relatively affordable to live there. And once you get to Zanzibar, I beg you, please stay in Stone Town for at least 2 or 3 days and go to now the part of Zanzibar that's paradise, right? Because that's also important and it matters and your travel goals are worthy. But my God, you have to discover Stone Town. You have to experience the very fabric of life in Stone Town, not just gloss over it. It's one of the most beautiful experiences of my life.
One of the most beautiful of mine too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I remember how much you loved Zanzibar. Someone here is asking, do you have a blog or a site? She has a book, guys, a book. Zanella Mashumi is asking if you have a blog or a site. Before you answer that question, she has a book that she's
At
published.
Exclusive Books online. You can also get it at bookshops that are open now, but Exclusive Books online still has copies and they'll deliver. And then also it's about how a 3-month trip to West Africa turns into living around the continent for 5 years and then traveling around the continent for 5 years, but never really stopping. It has fun times, like becoming friends with my favorite artist, getting drunk with him, going to concert with him, being in Salif Keita's entourage, befriending Biki Dude, meeting legends and icons, meeting people that I've admired, and then also meeting a lot of ordinary people, very loving, just giving me food, giving me love, giving me money to travel when I ran out of it, because boy, did I run out of it a lot. So it's really about Africa. It's about this continent, what makes it so beautiful, why it's not, yes, I traveled, it's my travel experiences, but I know that the love that I articulate in the book is a love that we all have for Africa. We know that it's complex. We know that it's troubled, you know. We know that it's not perfect, but by God, we also know that it's a fucking glorious home. Eh? I swear that. Sorry.
Oh, come on. You wish I happy birthday.
You do that.
Happy birthday, Chrissy.
Thank you. It takes 2 seconds.
Must I
Thank you
sing?
so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry, guys. Don't
No,
hate me.
you'll be getting your cake soon.
Thank you.
So you enjoy that. I wanted to ask before we go. Tell me a little bit about working with a global citizen, how that came about, how that's going for you.
Oh, okay.
Didn't you write that speech for Oprah? I heard that you wrote that speech.
I did, yeah. So when we had
Oprah
one
said
world
words that you wrote down.
yeah, my colleagues and I like worked on that script. We wrote scripts for Oprah. It was so cool. So I work at Global Citizen. I'm the content and comms lead, and basically I'm in charge of the editorial vision, strategic editorial vision, supporting policy, our campaigns, our work. And I think what I enjoy about Global Citizen is that the incredible parties are really like just one part of the job, right? It's the nice one when we get to gel with our audience. But the work that we do behind the scenes involves campaigning for actions from global citizens, from ordinary people on our platforms, taking actions and then using those actions and those voices to challenge leaders and corporates to invest money and invest in changing policies to help end extreme poverty. So for instance, in South Africa, we helped work with menstrual health management activists in the run-up to Mandela 100, amplifying their voices. Last year, we had a campaign called Turn the Page. We asked people to donate books or buy books, and then we worked with Nalibali to distribute them to different communities. So there's a lot that happens. The core part of the work is ending extreme hunger, but the manifestation of it is so layered and so rich. I like it. As you can tell, I've been there for some time now. It was supposed to be a 3-month gig. I think it's 2 years now.
Yeah.
Somebody has a difficult time living.
Did you say 10 the page? Did you call it 10 the page?
Page, yeah.
Okay. So goes on.
Thank you so much for joining us. I think we're almost out of time. Thank you so much for joining us. Guys, you can find her book. The book is called Vagabond Wandering Through Africa on Faith by Lerato Mogoathle. It's available at Exclusive Books. Thank you for joining us. You can follow her at Madam Africa.
Thank you.
We're gonna be hopefully we'll see you after this whole thing is over, and then we can work on getting travel packages for people, and doing like an Afro savvy, like, you know, travel with you. It would be so fun. Thank you so much.
Cheers, ne? Love you guys.
Love you.
Bye.
So that was Lerato Mogoathle. You can follow her at Madam Africa on here on Instagram. She has the book out at Exclusive Books. We love you.